Okay, good morning to everyone and welcome to another edition of Policing with You. Today I'm your host, Inspector Marvin Thompson, and today I'm just going to be sharing some information with you again about this law that we have in sync. It's the Electronic Crimes Act, Chapter 4.41. And from that act, it deals with things electronic, but from that act, I'm just going to touch two main areas. That's the area of unlawful communication and the section that speaks to child pornography. So we're just going to take a break and we'll dive right back into it as soon as we return.
Tell me what you know about love.
Attention, all Digicel mobile customers. Are you aware of the latest scam tactics targeting unsuspecting customers? Be cautious of fraudulent calls stating that you've won a prize or a large amount of cash and is requesting your personal and bank details. Further, Digicel does not request customer bank detail over the phone and will not be liable if you are to fall victim to these scams. Digicel urges customers to stay vigilant, carefully assess what is being asked before committing to providing any personal information. Together, we can outsmart the scammers and enjoy a worry-free mobile experience. Digicel, better together.
No frills, just great prices, only at Quartz. We don't just talk about it, we've got it. Shop with confidence and save big. Up to 50% off appliances, furniture, electronics, and so much more. Plus, pay with Ready Finance and get 1 month free. Only at Quartz. Bringing value home. Special conditions apply.
Okay, welcome back. And as I said just before the break, today I'm just going to be touching a little on the Electronic Crimes Act, specifically Section 12, which deals with child pornography, and Section 13, which speaks to unlawful communication. Now, where it speaks to, Section 13 says, where a person without lawful excuse or justification knowingly uses a computer system to send a message, letter, or electronic communication that is A, obscene, B, that constitutes a threat, or C, is menacing in character to a recipient and intends to cause the recipient or any other person who is the subject of that message or letter or electronic communication to feel intimidated, molested, harassed, or threatened, the person commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $10,000 or imprisonment to a term of 12 months, or to both the fine and the imprisonment. Now we live in a social media world, and much of the communication that we do takes place with our electronic devices, more so our smartphones, which constitutes in and of itself is an electronic device which would be considered a computer system, because everything that the normal laptop or desktop computer is capable of, the simple cell phone in our hands is capable of doing all that. So there are a lot of times many of us are aware that if you have a confrontation with someone in person, face to face, and as we say locally, you cuss them out and you use indecent language, obscene language, that in and of itself we would consider wrong, and we know automatically, more times than that, that might be an offense and something that you would go to the police for. However, in this particular age and the environment that we live in, because of the cell phones and the social media platforms that we use, many times people use the same language, but they send it over one of the social media platforms. So let's say, for instance, I have a confrontation with someone and I send them a message via WhatsApp, and I tell them how I'm going to F them up and use all kind of manner of indecent language and obscene language, but it's a text. It's just a text. And that person, because of the language I use, feels threatened. That is an offense. That is an offense, and that is something that you can be arrested for. If you don't necessarily use indecent language, but you're obscene in the manner which you're talking is obscene, that is also an offense. If you're not necessarily threatening directly, and you're not necessarily using the obscene language, but the manner in which you're talking and the things you're saying are considered menacing in character, the person just feels afraid that if they take particular steps, if they maintain a particular routine based on what you're saying, that they feel afraid to do that, then you have committed an offense. And based on the section 27 of the Electronic Crimes Act, give the police the authority to arrest for any offense under this Electronic Crimes Act. Now, the last time I was here when I was speaking to Small Charges Act, and if you threaten someone face to face, unless the police is present and is party to that, they see that, they hear what you said. If the police is present when that is happening, the police has the authority to arrest for anything that they see happening in their presence. If you come to the station and report that that is what happened, the action the police should take is to get a warrant to get the arrest. We don't have the power for the acts under the small charges, except for maybe like larceny, because all stealing is considered serious, even if it's 1 cent. So you can arrest for all stealing. But for most of the other offenses under the small charges, unless the police is present, so things like the threat and the abusive language and the bad word, decent language, on report, depending on the nature and the seriousness of the incident, you can get a warrant for the arrest. But you can't, based on the report, just go and arrest. Lawfully, that is. With the Electronic Crimes Act, however, if you send somebody a text full of bad words, cussing them out, the act gives the police the authority to lock up the offender or the alleged offender for that. So it's a bit more, you have a bit more leverage with the Electronic Crimes Act. That if you send someone a text cussing them out, that you can be arrested for that. If you send someone a text to make them fearful or fear that you're going to do them something, that text is considered menacing in character, which is one of the areas, and you can be arrested for that. Now, it may not be WhatsApp, it might be Facebook, or it might be LinkedIn or one of those new ones, what they have, but you communicated certain things to the individual, making them feel that you're going to hurt them, and they are fearful. You have, in fact, committed an offense for which you can be arrested for. So, we tend to be kind of careless when we speak and communicate over social media platforms. But we need to be more mindful that what is considered as a taboo or offensive, if you're doing it face to face, if you put it in writing or you document it, and send it via an electronic means, you're still doing the same thing. And that too is wrong and constitutes an offense for which, if it is done electronically, you can be arrested for it. So it says, where a person without lawful excuse or justification publishes the message or letter or electronic communication that we were just talking about before, in any other, and to any other person, not being the person who is the subject of the letter or electronic communication, that first person commits an offense and is liable to a fine of 15,000 or to imprisonment for a term of 2 years. So if we go back and read it again for clarity. Unlawful communication, section 13, and the subsection 1 says, where a person without lawful excuse or justification knowingly uses a computer system such as your smartphone, your laptop, your computer, to send a message, letter, or electronic communication that is A, obscene, B, constitutes a threat, or C, is menacing in character, to a recipient and intends to cause that recipient or any other person who is the subject of the message or the letter or electronic communication to feel intimidated, molested, harassed, or threatened, the person commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction, and summary just normally means in the magistrate court, to a fine of $10,000 or to imprisonment for a term of 12 months, or to both such fine and imprisonment. So you either get a fine as much, and it doesn't say, it normally says to a fine not exceeding. Most of the laws have the amount that they put for the conviction is a cap. It says to a fine not exceeding. So it means that if the fine not exceeding is $1,000, you can't get more than $1,000. But the magistrate can charge you $5. So they have that discretion. When I read this, I did not see the not exceeding. I see that if you are convicted, liable on conviction to a fine of $10,000. My understanding where this is concerned is that if you are convicted, the fine will be $10,000, because there is no parameter in terms of not exceeding. There is no discretionary. That's the discretionary piece that gives the judge the authority to say, okay, it is serious enough, but not so serious as to reach the 1,000. I can charge you $5. This says liable to conviction to a fine of $10,000. So, or to imprisonment for the 12 months, or you get both. So the discretion there is whether or not the judge will give you both. No, subsection 2 says, where a person without lawful excuse or justification publishes the message, the letter, or electronic communication referred to in one that we were just reading, that you sent the letter communication to cause the person to feel molested, harassed, threatened, intimidated, send that communication to any other person, not being the person who is the subject of the letter. So if I am sending, if you are, GQ are the subject of the letter, but I send it to my sister, this is saying, if we're the person without lawful excuse or justification publishes in common sense, that means share, send that message, electronic communication referred to in subsection 1 to any other person, not being the person who is the subject of the message, the letter or the communication, the unlawful communication, that first person commits an offense. To the person who shares it commits an offense. And that person who shares, if they are convicted, they may be charged a fine of $15,000 or to imprisonment for a term of 2 years or both. And it says, for the purpose of subsection 1, communication that constitutes a threat or is menacing in character includes communication that causes substantial emotional distress. So even if the person just gets stressed out or seriously worried, scared because of the communication, if that is all that happens, the person who sent it initially or the person who shares it with someone else, the sharer and the initial sender commits an offense. Now, we have seen, and many of us know, whether or not we have been party to, where sometimes there are videos, other media with minors, children being circulated, doing sexually explicit acts. Now, under the Electronic Crime Act, it speaks to child pornography, and it says child pornography includes any material that visually depicts a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct, or a person who appears to be a minor in sexually explicit conduct, or any realistic image representing a minor engaged in sexual explicit conduct. And section 12 says, a person who knowingly publishes child pornography through any computer system, that's A, or B, produces child pornography for the purpose of its publication through a computer system, or C, possesses child pornography in a computer system or on a computer data storage medium for the purpose of publication, commits an offense and is liable on conviction, on indictment, that's High Court matters now, in the case of an individual, to a fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a term of 5 years, or both the fine and the imprisonment. It says in the case of a corporation, to a fine of $250,000. So, for the individual, $50,000. For the business, $215,000. And the individual is $50,000 for publishing, possessing, or producing child pornography. For the individual who does that, the possible fine is $50,000 and a term of imprisonment of 5 years. Or you get both. You pay the $50,000 and you still get the 5 years. For the case of the business, it's $250,000. And again, in reading this, you normally see the clause in there to a term not exceeding. When I'm reading here, I am seeing that who possess, produce, or publishes commits an offense and is liable on conviction, on indictment, and like I said, this is a High Court matter. In the case of the individual, to a fine of $50,000 or to imprisonment for a term of 5 years or both the fine and the imprisonment for the individual. And the corporation is liable and may be charged up, well, he said, in the case of a corporation, to a fine of $250,000. He said the provision in subsection 1, that's what I just read in terms of the person who knowingly publishes, produces, or possesses. In paragraph 1A or C, so that's A is publishes child pornography through a computer system, and C is possesses child pornography in the computer system or on a data storage medium. So if you have it on your pen drive, shall not be applicable to a person who establishes that you have the child pornography for a bona fide, you have a good reason, scientific research, medical, or law enforcement purpose. So the only exception there is if you can prove that the reason why you have it is that you're doing bona fide scientific research, scientific, medical, or law enforcement research purposes. Other than that, if you're found guilty, you're liable again as an individual to a fine of up to $50,000 and to imprisonment for a term of up to 5 years. And if it's the business that is found liable for this offense, then the business charge $250,000. So I think I'll take a time out there and allow anyone who might want to call in and ask the question to do so.
We don't have any calls at the moment, though. But the number to call, ladies and gentlemen, is 465-2555 and 718-577-2916 for those of you in the United States and Canada region. Back over to you, sir.
Okay, so section 19 of the Electronic Crimes Act speaks to order for production of data, and you might have heard persons speak to a production order. And what this section says is, if a magistrate is satisfied on the basis, and it says ex parte, an ex parte application by a police officer, that the specified data storage is stored in a computer system and is reasonably required for the purpose of a criminal investigation.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, but we do have some calls.
Okay, I'll take the call.
Good morning. You're live.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, caller.
I listen the program, right? But I hope you all as police don't get catch with that kind of thing where you are saying this amount of money. Take care. You.
We have another call.
Good morning, caller.
Go ahead. You're live, sir.
Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Let's try another call. Another line, I should say. Good morning. You're live.
Yeah, good morning, Gico.
Yes, morning,
Good
Jamdo.
morning.
And good morning, the good police, them.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, welcome.
Citizens in this country. Poor people. I want to focus on the poor people. Give us the poor policing. Officer.
Yes, sir.
This week, we see a mental challenge guy chop another chop a man over by the Chinese. And he been warned. Police been known about this guy for a lot of years. His family background a mental problem, and this guy need to take up. He shouldn't be back on the road just like that. For what he do to that young man. He shouldn't be back on the road. This is the kind of thing we gonna have problem with you know. Because I know that I know the history of certain people in town. Very dangerous. Now before the young man, some tourists, let's say they walking up Victoria Road. He might lick off one of them head. I mean, it's terrible. My good friend had to shout out at the man, although he he got a problem where he's sick. He have to stay on his veranda and shout at the guy. I don't need to kill the guy. The guy's going to walk, just waiting for transport to take him to work, to go home safe to his mother and his family. And this is where we get in on the street. And next thing I want to say, and I want the commissioner hear me, and Wossi, these foreign immigrants where we're bringing in this country to better themselves in St. Kitts and help the family abroad with the hardship in the country. We ain't bring on here to bring down St. Kitts, All these Spanish shops were selling narcotic drugs. You all got to do something to them, not just to the locals. This thing in. You do as you like. When we give you a business license to think you in bars and night time and sell drugs, This thing ain't a walking St. Kitts, A warning, Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Always welcome your contribution. We as police often and always have to be mindful of what our authority and role is. And while we always want to ensure public safety, when there are persons who we're not qualified to determine who has a mental challenge. So while we take steps to secure the public from certain things that we might suspect, we still have to be mindful of the authority that we have going forward. And public health is not something that is specific to police. Police enforce laws. Public health issues have to come from, in terms of leading the way, should come from the persons who are the public health professionals. So it would work better if we work together to find a remedy. Okay, caller, go ahead, you're on. Welcome to Police in the Stream.
Officer.
Yes, sir.
I know this is, about anything about someone living in someone's house and you have a down payment. You ever hear anybody live out the down payment and after they don't live out the down payment, they're still in the people's house?
I'm not sure I understand. I heard someone is living in the house.
Yes. And they say they're going to move and they live out the down payment.
Yes.
With the down payment is the payment that for the contract.
Yes.
And to see if when you move, everything is okay. They live out that. You tell them, well, okay, you tell them now is to get somewhere to go.
Yes.
And after that, they still live in your house and still not paying. I will listen to you after a year.
Well, what I can say in terms of that is that if you're contracted to, like a rent, and you're supposed to be paying and you're not paying, then that's a breach. So the best advice for someone who is in that situation that I would give them is to speak to your lawyer and then activate the system in the court so that the court can assist you in getting that person out. The court can, if the court finds in your favor, would give the police the authority to assist you in, if needs be, to physically getting the person out of the property. But we would need the authority of the court in that, because that is more civil, a civil matter. So it would be best to seek a lawyer so you can get direction and get the assistance from the court to get the help of the police.
All right, hold on. Let's go back to the phone line. Good morning, you're live.
Hello, good morning, GQ and Inspector Thompson.
Good morning.
That was my brother, very animated, talking to you guys.
Yes, Sonny Ward.
Inspector Thompson, again, I tell you congratulations on your promotion. It's well owned. Because I've been looking at you for a while. Jakir, that's my brother. He's kind of upset, but y'all bear with him. He's okay. He's a cool guy. He's still my brother. Still love him. Thank you, Jakir. All the rest of the show.
All right, thank you, sir.
Back over to you, sir.
Good morning.
No, we don't have any call at the moment.
Okay. So I was speaking to the production order and saying that if the police goes to the magistrate and provides the evidence that there is information on a computer system that is needed for criminal investigation or criminal proceedings, the magistrate may order that a person in St. Kitts and Nevis in control of the system produce from the system the specified computer data, the information that the police are looking for, or a printout that is intelligible. I mean, I need to understand it. A printout of the information. It goes further, that's A, that B says an internet service provider in St. Kitts and Nevis will be required, if the magistrate provides the production order for that, the internet service provider, so Flow, Digicel, whoever, if we get a production order from the magistrate, will be required to produce information about the person who is subscribed or who is otherwise uses the service. So the person who the service belongs to, the internet. If you get the production order and go to the service provider, the production order from the magistrate mandates that the service provider provide the information of who the service belongs to. So that is entrenched in the Electronic Crimes Act as well. So you may have some information, but you don't know who it is, but you might have a number or something depending on what is transmitted. And we have that option to get a production order from the magistrate to allow the service provider to provide the name of the person. Section 27, when I mentioned earlier, Section 27 of the Act, the Electronic Crimes Act, provide that a police officer may arrest without a warrant any person reasonably suspected of committing an offense under the Act. So the police, based on the authority of the Electronic Crimes Act, Section 27, if they reasonably suspect that someone has committed a crime under the Electronic Crimes Act, the law, Section 27 of the Act, provides the police the authority to arrest the person without the need for a warrant.
Apologies for interrupting you. We have a call here.
Okay.
Good morning, you're live.
Good morning, GQ.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Welcome, police mission.
Morning, officer. It's a comment in relation to the presentation that what's his name, Jam Down made.
Yes.
You gave a list of things that police are responsible for, but you didn't give the first one, to prevent crime. So if there is no law to bar a police officer if he see a mental man with a bottle, a machete, a knife, because you know them, they play small and we know all of them, to apprehend that person the best way you can, while not putting yourself in danger. So the first line is to prevent crime. And Jamno made a point, say, you know, if these people continue, you see them with pieces of pipe, you see them in machete, you see them, and you just let them go. You ain't preventing a crime because they can knock off the head of a tourist. That's the point he was trying to make.
Well, what I got was he was relaying an incident. He said someone with a machete chopped someone. I didn't get that he was saying if we see someone who is mentally, have a mental issue with a machete, that we should do something, because anybody, mental or not, who has a machete is committing an offense. You carry an avoid unless you can give reasonable reason why you have it. So that would be irrelevant whether you're mental or not. In a case like that, if you're carrying something, or if you're carrying a piece of stick, a pipe, like you mentioned, in a particular situation, and you can't give a reason, a suitable reason as to why you have that, then you're actually committing an offense. We would say carrying a rod. An offensive weapon.
What he was trying to say, maybe he didn't bring it over as plain.
Yes.
Is that the police need to be
more observant with these mentally challenged people, and it nothing to do with your power. Got a lot of power to do a lot of things. You let that to the magistrate or the judge to deal with. The police got to do what they got to do to save lives and to prevent crime. Okay, officer?
Okay, thank you. And I'll agree with you from the standpoint that police, we have to do what we have to do in our efforts to safeguard lives. But I'll say again that while we're doing that, we still have to be mindful of while we're doing what we're doing, that we are doing it according to the laws. We must be within the parameters and the authority that the law gives us to do it. So while we're doing it and doing what we should do, we still have to be mindful that when we are carrying out those duties, that we're doing it within the confines of the laws in terms of our authority and how it allows us.
All right, let's go to the phone line. Good morning, you're live.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning,
sir.
counsel. Good morning. Thankful for that, counsel. Officer.
Yes, sir.
You are listening to what people saying. You ain't never had a serious chop out up there by the Chinese and Victoria Road.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't?
No.
But when I come into the media, I must come with I must do the diligence. Go by the guard room and get information. Police. What's wrong with us, man? You
I am speaking to the Electronic Crimes Act, so I am not speaking to... Yes?
Man, Alderman, Walwyn Alderman. Man, come on, man. The council got to come and explain that to you. I'm a Tom and Chilayo. I'm from the Court of Conscience, Cecil Roberts University. I don't come and speak out everything to you. I just put something on the table for you to pick up as a police. Police years ago, they was very observant. But it looked like that locking in the force with these young high command. Then putting it down. Watch here, that young man shouldn't go back on the road. He have a mental problem and he attacking people from the road there, by the alley there by NHC to Victoria Road because he lives through there. And if I don't do something to him, people can do something to him, you know. I want him, have a good day.
Paula,
Well,
I empathize and I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you in the standpoint that we do what we can do and are supposed to do. I still maintain that while we're doing all that, that we need to be mindful that we are within the parameters for which the law allows us. So I agree with you, but I'm telling that we still have to be mindful of that.
All right, we're going to be wrapping up shortly,
Yes,
but we'll entertain at least 2 more calls, and then we're going to get ready for National Assembly. That'll be coming to you live via radio, television, and also YouTube. Good morning, you're live.
Hey, good morning. So for quite a while now, I've been hoping that in the training of the police, that they're trained to cope with mentally ill patients, the general training of the police. Because, as you know, we have many of those people on the roads in St. Kitts and Nevis. One last thing, too, on the matter about the pornography and minors. I'm not too clear if I heard you say about what recourse does one have if somebody keeps sending these things to your phone or your computer? I listen off here.
If somebody is sending explicit pornographic thing to your phone, and you say to them that you don't wish to have that, I think there's still recourse in terms of going to the station and saying that you have told this person that you do not want to have these things, and depending on the nature, saying that somebody that you can necessarily block, or an organization that you can necessarily block. I can still go to the police station and make a report and then have some redress in terms of what this speaks to. That if you share, you may not be the person who produced, but if you share it, that the person, the sharer of pornographic images, publishes, that is tantamount to publishing, and that in and of itself may find that person liable under the Electronic Crimes Act. So I think there's nothing to lose in terms of if you have spoken to the person and or wherever that is coming from and you are having an issue. I don't think there's any harm in going to the police to get some assistance in trying to remedy that situation. And as I said, in terms of the act, where it speaks to a person in the individual, no. The person in subsection, we're talking about the person who produces, if you don't produce, possess, or publishes, which is more or less share. If you send it to someone that, let's say somebody sends something to you and you send it to someone, you are committing an offense if you for publishing when you send it to the someone. So if someone sends something to you, that person is committing an offense. I hope that helps.
I know I said 2 more calls, but we'll have to end it there. It's
Yes,
now 3 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock, and we're going to make way so that they can get ready for this morning's sitting. So I'll give you the last
I want to thank you all for joining us today on Policing With You. We always welcome your comments, whether they are strong critiques or not. We always welcome you because, as this show says, we are policing with you, and there's a part for the public to play with the police. If we work together, we can get all of these issues that we are dealing with under control, if not eliminated. So thank you again for joining us on this edition of Policing With You, and we are inviting you to come again next week as we have a similar presentation. Thanks again. My name is Inspector Thompson. Thanks for joining us, and have a blessed day.
Sacrifice now. Tell me what you think about equal rights for all.